Made a problem. That's what it means. Hello, my dear listeners. Today's show, extraordinary. Extraordinary women are all over the place in today's show. You're going to find out about social media and what you should be doing, what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and what's the next thing to get your voice heard. We're also going to talk about emotional intelligence and recruiting in the workplace, how headhunters can work with coaches and emotional intelligence to be more powerful, and how you can be more powerful in your coaching with emotional intelligence. I know you think you've got it, right? We all think we're emotionally intelligent, but learning and developing yourself is always a good thing, I think. You are perhaps wondering, is there going to be a guest co-host today? Are we going to have just McAuliffe's voice, or are we going to hear other people? And today in the reel is November 8th. Now, I don't know about you, but here's the thing. November 8th last year, pretty bad day for me. November 8th this year, not such a bad day. Not such a bad day. In the United States of America, we just saw a couple of Democratic sort of sweeps in, admittedly, a blue state and an increasingly blue state. So, but, you know, we'll take what we can get on this side of the aisle. And most notably, perhaps, for those of us interested in human rights all over the place, the anti-LGBTQ candidate who wanted to have separate bathrooms was defeated by, oh, that's gotta hurt, a trans woman in a Virginia state election. So we're excited for our LGBTQ friends and community and family and loved ones, and for the human rights of everyone everywhere. You may not agree with that. I got it. But thanks for listening anyway. Hey, speaking of listening, let's talk about how come we're here. One of the things that we're very excited about, first of all, you know that this is a labor of love. We just do this. We don't do this for the money. You don't pay anything. We're doing this to get the information out about coaching and coach-related stuff and stuff you may not have heard about yet to everyone around the world. And that's why we're here each and every week, interviewing people who are doing something interesting or out on the cutting edge of coaching, or maybe coaching pioneers, people who are, you know, without whom we would not be here today. So thanks for tuning in to the coaching show here each and every week, live coming to you, or you can listen to the archives anytime, you know, like when you're vacuuming or doing something like that. What I want to let you know is that we are delighted, proud, and honored to be a media partner of the International Coach Federation. Who is the International Coach Federation, you may ask? Well, where you been? International Coach Federation is the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches, and we are delighted and honored to promote their work and the work of the fine people in that organization. If you're looking for information about coaching, go to coachfederation.org. If you're looking for a coach, if you're looking to find out how to become a coach, if you're looking for the latest research on coaching, if you're looking for anything, including slides for your slide deck, or information on return on investment for coaching, or how to fill out an RFP, anything you need is available at the website coachfederation.org. Also, if you're looking for a community, check out the local, one moment please. Sorry, getting over a cold. Check out the local meeting near you, and you can find that, you're exactly right, at coachfederation.org. It's the home of the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches, and by that, through that, you can get whatever resources you need, whatever information you need. You can get connected to people you need to be connected to. You can find out about basics like coaching ethics, the core competencies of coaching, and of course, you can find out accredited coach training programs, or work on your own certification. The ACC, the PCC, and the MCC are all credentials given by the International Coach Federation. Sorry, I got another tickle in my throat. I'll be right with you. Those sound effects, real and in person. All right, let's get to our co-host. Our special guest co-host today is Gina Ross. We're delighted to welcome her. She is Gina Ross of Gina Ross Coaching. She's an executive coach, a professional life coach, event leader, and speaker. She supports aspiring entrepreneurs to find, heal, and share their voice, the authentic expression that wants to have impact with the people they serve. She is a former certified counselor and brings a playful and spiritual intuition along for the ride in all of her work. If you want more information, go to GinaRossCoaching.com. Hello, Gina.
Hello. Hello. So excited to be here.
Well, I am too, and you sound like you're in a submarine. Are you in a submarine?
I am in my car, yes.
Where Look around outside. Are you on the Lam, or are you someplace?
Uh,
Where are
yeah,
you?
I'm looking at the ocean right now. So
In
yeah,
what in what part of the world? What ocean?
I'm in
Indian?
Victoria, British Columbia. So
Oh,
yeah, one of the
that's
most beautiful places to be.
true indeed. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Anything you
Thank you
want people to know about you before we get on to our first guest?
Just that I'm here to serve. So happy to be part of this conversation, and especially talking about to women and helping others getting their voice out into the world.
Nice. You really are Canadian. It's clear. All right. Well, let's talk about Marie Incontrera. I'm a little thrown that you're in the car. Do you have access to the interwebs, the www? Gina?
Me?
Yeah, Gina.
No, I
Hello?
don't right now.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I'm teasing.
Oh,
All right. So stay with me. We're going to move fast, Gina. Going to move
all
fast.
right.
Even for a Canadian.
I'm with
What? Why would you? Why would you insult Canadians? It was a misspoke. I misspoke. I'm sorry. Let's. You know, I'm teasing you, right? Gina.
Yes? I'm sorry. I'm
Wow.
going to hang up and call back. Maybe I'll get a better connection.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Okay.
That was Gina Ross of GinaRossCoaching.com. Not sure what the issue is there, but we're going to resolve it. All my technical people, everyone in the studio is working on this immediately. Let's get to our first guest. Here's the thing. I could read her bio, but it would take the entire time. She's so multifaceted and extraordinary. What you need to know about Marie Incontrera is that she's a social media publicity and speaker consultant. That is, she helps people like you get your voice, get your message, get out there in the world, especially through the magic of social media. Now, I don't know about you. I think I do, but I don't really. I mean, I've heard things. But social media is one of those things that there's a million ways to do it wrong and very few ways to do it right. I mean, maybe there's no way to do it right. But Marie guides people in terms of their publicity, in terms of their branding, and as a consultant, she brings their message out and tells them exactly where they should be, how they should be, whether it's ghostwriting or being an author, whether it's through apps or through podcasts or whatever else. She will guide us, and I'm delighted to welcome her to our microphones. I'm going to work on my English language. Marie Incontrera. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being had, as we like to say. Hey, let's ask you the same question. Look around outside. Where are you today?
I am in my apartment in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn! In the house. Nice. All right. Tell me, first of all, everybody's going to be dying to, after you speak, everyone's going to be dying to find out more about you. What's the website where we can find out more about Marie Incontrera?
My consulting website is about.me/Avant Consulting. Avant like avant-garde, AVANTCON consulting. So yeah, Avant Consulting.
And is there a dot something after that?
No. So it's about.me/Avant Consulting.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm horribly confused, but it's because I'm a backward old person. Okay, good. About.me/Avant,
Yeah.
AVANT, consulting. Got it.
Right. I'm in the process of rebranding, so that's why I have an about.me.
Hey,
at
if
this
you need any branding help, I know this great woman named Marie. She can help you out. All right, let's talk about, first of all, you and I right now, we're on a podcast. I don't know.
Yes.
I got like 30 to 50, depending on the month, 30 to 50,000 listeners. How am I doing? Is a podcast a good idea? Is podcast old technology now? Is 30 to 50 even worth doing? Should I be looking at millions? What's true for coaches and what's true for podcasts?
Sure. Well, podcasting is awesome, and I think it's a really innovative form of media. And because it's relatively new, one of the great things is that it doesn't require some really expensive publicity package with a high-end publicist to get on. So, like, if you're looking to get on NPR, for instance, you need a really high-end publicist. It's a really big investment, and you may not get on. So the great thing about podcasts is that they're still relatively new. There are many of them. They go on iTunes. And the great thing is that it's evergreen. So, for example, right now, you and I are talking, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
When it's when the podcast comes out, I'll put it on my social media. It's evergreen. I can post this in 6 months.
Right. And
And it shows up on my SEO, and I can reuse it.
nice. So everybody listening right now should have a podcast, is what I'm hearing. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Either have podcast or be on as many podcasts as you can. By the way,
Ah, nice. Yes.
50,000 is an awesome number.
Oh, good.
Like, that's one of those things that I look for, top rated, lots of downloads. When I reach out on behalf of my clients, I look at those numbers, and that's fantastic.
Okay, cool. So not only have your own or create one, but also be on lots. Now, how is that different? And forgive my ignorance, but how is that different from something like Facebook Live, where you think you're getting some sort of, immediate, more tangible, maybe more interactive thing versus this, which is, as you say, it's evergreen, but it's also, people can't call you up and ask you a question next week, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's a little bit different. I mean, Facebook Live is a good tool because that also stays on your page, and you can repurpose the content later. Of course, people can't call up. This is not a podcast is not a live radio situation, so you can't have a guest call in, for instance, and ask a question in real time. But it's sort of just another way to get out there. And of course, now that we have social media channels and things like that, if somebody's listening to this and wants to ask a question, they can just reach out.
Got it. So maybe you use what I'm hearing is there are actually different purposes, right? Facebook
Right.
Live, if you've got an event, or if there's a book launch or something where you're actually trying to get people temporarily involved, like go to my website today, or try and
Yeah.
increase my Amazon rank this week, then we want to go to Facebook Live or those sorts of promotional things. But podcast is just generally a great idea to regularly be on them, regularly create them, so as to get your name out in the social media world. Am I picking up what you're laying down?
Absolutely, yeah. The great thing about Facebook Live is that if you're at an event or something like that, you can, somebody can stream the event and watch and sort of be there with you.
Okay. So in a way, we're talking about podcasts as publicity or presence.
Absolutely.
And then we're talking about Facebook Live as more of an engagement with your audience, right?
Yeah.
Where we're like, you can talk to me. Let's talk. Here I am. I know something about something. I'm an expert in Starbucks food. Let me know what
Yeah.
questions you have, right? And then
Yeah.
is there something else that we should be doing in addition to getting publicity, ideally through positive means, and engaging with our audience? Is there a third or fourth, or how many things?
Yeah. So any content that you create, sort of everything feeds everything else. So in what I do, I sort of look at the multifaceted ends of things. If you have great content and it's not being put out on social media, the great content sort of just sits there, right? It sits
Right.
there in the ether and nobody sees it. So social media is a really great way to get your content out there. And being on podcasts, for instance, is great, but you also need your own content to feed into that. Now, not everybody wants to create a podcast, right, or a video cast, but one of the things that you could be doing is blogging, for example. And, on a platform like Inc., especially for coaches, Inc. is great, Entrepreneur is great, Forbes is great, Thrive is great, Medium, basically the platform matters a little bit less than just getting your content out there, because when you're on social media, especially as a coach, people want to know what makes you different. Because
Okay.
people are hiring you for your personality. They're hiring you for the unique thing that you bring to the table.
Yeah. Okay. So content is the third thing, is what I'm hearing. There's publicity, there's engaging with folks, and then there's content. And man, you said some magic words there. Like, I go to those places, right? I actually have heard of Inc. and Entrepreneur and Forbes and
Yeah.
places. And I know people who have written and gotten their stuff on, like, Huffington Post and, other place, or HuffPost, or whatever we're calling it these days.
Right.
But how do we get there? When I sit down at my blank screen to write something, I have no idea how to get it from there to, like, Inc. or Entrepreneur or any of these places. Is that where you come in?
Yeah, I have gotten my clients onto websites like Inc. To become bloggers at Inc. It does take a little bit of time. you know, you have to be blogging regularly already. And at this point, for websites like Forbes and Inc., it doesn't matter as much your existing readership, although that helps, but they really want to see that you're blogging regularly, that you have good ideas, and that your content will work well with the website. And the big trend is in things like listicles, like, for instance, 10 ways to get your brand out there.
Oh, got it.
So, and then there's an application process, and I have supported my podcast and publicity clients with that as well.
Oh, okay. So you know I'm sorry, I'm getting a weird echo. We're working on that. It's technical day today. So you know the way, and there is some sort of application, but it's better to work with somebody like you who knows the way and where we could go, because there are platforms and things like that I've never heard of, like Thrive and Quora, Medium. These are, you know, to a middle-aged white guy, like, that's, you might as well be speaking gibberish, right? But you know this way. Is there some service that you provide where you sort of train us? In other words, I've already learned a lot. I need to start blogging regularly. I need to get my voice out there. But what else do we need to do? Do we need to hire somebody like you and work with you to sort of shape our message and things? Or is it just when we've got something written, then we come to you? How do we use you?
So my services mostly, it sort of depends on where you're at. Like, I try to meet people where they're at, but in general, looking at what your ideas are, right? And then if you're in need of that, helping to craft, like, here's the outline for your blog, here's where this can go. You know, certain articles work better on Thrive. Quora is a little bit different, and that's sort of categorizes itself under social media, although it's a separate service. Quora is really great because you can repurpose your content to answer people's questions. If you look at, like, James Altucher's Quora page, you know, he's got like thousands of upvotes and thousands of best answers, and all he's really done is repurpose the content he's already created.
Wow. Great. Let me go a different direction. So first of all, I'm totally convinced that I need you. Your job is a social media consultant, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing, sort of listening also for the listeners, is that, look, if we're a first-time coach, just getting out there, just quit our full-time job and want to get clients and sort of make a name for ourselves, you'll meet us there, right?
Absolutely.
Forgive me. But also, if you're an old person like myself and have been out there for a while, you can help me. You can help me reach audiences that I have yet to touch. You can also help me maybe craft or hone my message and my brand a little better, and determine whether, for example, I should have political content on my podcast or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and you'll sort of tailor it for whomever comes to you. And again, how we come to you is about.me/Avant, A-V-A-N-T, consulting. Let's talk, I said I was going to take it in a different direction. As I look at your bio, I see TEDx in there. Now, I'm a guy who was around when TED started, and I got excited about it and then found out that there was no way on this earth that I was ever going to give a TED Talk, because everybody, literally every human on the planet and some of the dogs and cats want to give a TED Talk. So how do you, what's your current opinion on TED and TEDx, and is it worth doing? Are we ever going to get there?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of success with the clients that I've already worked with. Of course, there are no guarantees on something like TEDx. But the great thing about TED and subsequently the independently run TEDx's is that it's so widespread now. It's so ubiquitous. It really takes you miles ahead in terms of your social proof. So, and it creates a great video that then again you can use for content. And for coaches, I think especially, I found that having a TEDx video is really valuable, whether or not you want to make part of your career in public speaking. I think getting your ideas out there in a TEDx is really important and really valuable. And the way that I work, you know, because the thing about TEDx is you're right, everybody in the dogs and cats want to do one. Everybody has an idea. Most of our ideas are good. If you've watched a few TEDx's and you have an idea, there's probably something there that's craftable. So we work on your pitch. We work on creating an outreach template and email. We work on creating a 60 to 90-second video of you explaining your idea worth spreading. And then I go out and I pitch everywhere I can.
Got it. So we may end up being in TEDx Borneo or someplace, but as long as we get in there, we're good.
Right. So, and the thing is, the video is great no matter what, even if you do it in, North Dakota or something. Right. The location matters less than actually getting a TEDx and being able to say, I am a TEDx speaker. That does wonders for your your perception as an expert.
Nice. Hey, I'm going to drill you on a couple of things as a consultant. Is that okay? Do you mind consulting to a few thousand coaches?
Absolutely.
All right. Now I know coaches is a big catchment, right? We got coaches who are just starting. We got coaches in Europe. We got coaches in Asia, or and in South America and everywhere. But if you could give us all maybe one do and one don't when it comes to social media, is there a big error that we're all making almost regularly, or a big thing we should be doing that we're mostly not?
Yeah, well, the big don't is don't complain.
Oh, nice.
I see a lot of, complaining and a little bit less with coaches maybe than some other business accounts. But the big thing is if you have an issue or a problem or a challenge and you want to share that on social media, that's really honest. But I think, going on social media to complain that a client is really annoying or something like that, it's very easy to do because it's at our fingertips.
Right.
And it happens more often than one would think, because we're at this point we have smartphones, we're constantly logged in. Right. Even as coaches, we're very virtually connected. A lot of us do our work on Skype and Zoom and things like that. So we're at our computers all day. So I do see some complaining, and I think that's a really big one worth saying.
Okay.
Politics in moderation, especially to, in this day and age, it's really hard to stay quiet about these things. And especially when, but the big caveat is, if something is relevant to your brand and your business, then it's definitely okay to talk about it.
Now, one of the things that I think is protecting me, this is about what you just said, by the way. One of the things I think is protecting me is I've got 2 Facebook accounts, for example, right? I'm old, so I use Facebook, like your parents. I
use it too. I love Facebook.
Okay, great. Thanks for making me feel slightly better. So I've got my own page. Now my own page is filled with, in case you can't tell, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool museum quality, as Garrison Keillor used to say, tax and spend liberal, like far to the left progressive, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all over my Facebook page because I got an opinion about everything and I feel fine about expressing it to people that are my quote-unquote friends, right? Mm-hmm. But then I got this other thing about the coaching show where it's like, hey, tune in today and, talk to Marie, right? Or find out what Marie has to say, where I don't talk about anything political. Is that actually protecting me and the other listeners? In other words, does having one for our professional life and one for our personal life work? Or does it just make people send over to your other one and then find out if they like or hate you based on your political or personal postings?
Well, I think it depends, and I also think there's a way to do politics on your social in a healthy way and not, be sort of spreading the hate a little bit, and I'm on your side, right? Like I'm a tried and true liberal.
Brooklyn.
I posted on my social media last night about the
victories, right?
What's her name?
Danica. Yeah.
Rome.
Right.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Danica Rome, her victory was huge for, my audience and my community, and I was really excited about it. And so there's a way to do that very positively and say, like, this is a huge victory for us. And then there's, like, a way to do it that's harmful, which is, like, everybody else is wrong, that sort of thing. and it depends. Some people have business pages. Some people are their persona is so tied in with their business that they don't. I think people will, sort of look you up on Facebook.
I'm so sorry. I got so into the conversation that I lost track of the time. I want to give you, we've got about 35 seconds left. I want to give it all to you for a parting thought or parting shot for our listeners, and I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you are all good. My parting thought is, don't be afraid to post. You should be posting every day, on at least Monday to Friday on all your platforms. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's where people like me come in, because I know this thing is time. Social media is time consuming, but it is necessary nowadays.
Great. Beautifully said and beautifully timed. Gives us enough time to let people know how to reach you, which is at about.me/Avant, A-V-A-N-T, consulting. That's Marie Incontrera. Thank you so much for being with us today, Marie.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Our privilege. Okay, we learned something. When we come back after these important messages, we're going to learn more about emotional intelligence and headhunting. You don't want to miss it because you either need a job, want a job, or somebody you work with does. You're listening to The Coaching Show right here on WSRadio.com. Stay with us.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Are you seeking to change your career to something that is both fulfilling and challenging? Do you want to help people reach their full potential and strive to achieve their dreams? Would you like to inspire those around you and help create a better world? If you're serious about a career change or just want to explore the craft of personal coaching, contact Accomplishment Coaching. With locations across the country in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Chicago, New York City, and San Diego, Accomplishment Coaching is the leading institution in personal coaching. Our staff carefully monitors the entire program, live during the training process, and have met the strict standards of ICF International to achieve accreditation. Through a focus on quality instruction rather than endless modules of training, Accomplishment Coaching will guide you from your very first step all the way to becoming one of the finest coaches in the world. Visit AccomplishmentCoaching.com to learn more. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach.
Christopher McAuliffe is your source for the latest in the world of personal coaching. Whether it be speaking with such luminaries as Deepak Chopra or getting the newest techniques and innovation, the Coaching Show is always on the cutting edge of what's happening now.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to The Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
We have so much to get to. We have many, many things to get to. All right, number one, our guest co-host for today is back with us. Via the magic of technology, we've got Gina Ross of Gina Ross Coaching joining us from a beautiful vista of the ocean in Victoria, British Columbia. Gina, are you there?
I am here. Hopefully
All right.
the connection is better.
It is. Just, hey, jump right in anytime. And in the meantime, let's let people know that you're a coach who works with aspiring entrepreneurs to find, heal, and share their voice, the authentic expression that wants to have impact with the people they serve, and that people can find you at GinaRossCoaching.com.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks. And like I said, dive right in. We're going to go fast because we've got a million things to talk about. One of the things
All right.
is our longtime sponsor, our longest sponsor for, pardon me, about 14 years. We've been sponsored on this here weekly podcast by Accomplishment Coaching. Now, Gina, I don't know if you're like me. If you are, God help you. But if you are, you want the finest things. When you go looking for anything, you're looking for the finest one. Not the cheapest one, not the most readily available one, but the finest. And when it comes to coach training programs, Accomplishment Coaching is the finest in the world. And they're not kidding, and it's not hyperbolic, and it's not just an idea. It's true in terms of any measure, in terms of the success of the graduates, in terms of the number of hours of actual coaching, the numbers of, pardon me, books and study and distinctions and tools, but also you get to coach real-life human beings, not just coach your neighbor or your fellow trainee or something like that, but you get actual human beings to coach, as well as you get a coach for an entire year, once a week for a year. How great is that? So all those things and more distinguish Accomplishment Coaching as the finest coach training program in the world. Of course, it's ICF accredited. And Gina, let's see. Here's a pop quiz. Can you name all the cities in the world where Accomplishment Coaching is currently, where people can do the program?
Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, San Diego, Victoria, British Columbia, Seattle. Did I get them all?
I believe so. Did you say Chicago, Illinois?
I did. I did.
Nice. You got them all. 6 cities where you can find the world's finest coach training program. And I know that I speak for Gina when I say one of the favorite things that, of ours about Accomplishment Coaching is that you, right now, you listening here, with no experience or admission fee, can go and observe the coach training program in process near you. You can just go and sort of sit as a gallery watching the coach training in process. And I love that because I don't know about you, but I don't like things that are mysterious. And generally, coach training is mysterious. Like, you can get a sales pitch about it, but you don't really know what they do until you sign up. And here you can go and check it out before you sign up. Anything else you want to say about Accomplishment Coaching, my friend Gina?
Just check it out. Check it out, because it's you won't regret it.
What finer recommendation could there be than Gina Ross saying, check it out? All right. I do not promise to stop teasing you about your delightful Canadian accent, by the way, just so you know.
I love being Canadian. It's okay.
I'm so glad. So as advertised at the beginning of the show and just before the break, I'm excited about our next guest. Her first time here, an executive headhunter who's also a certified PCC executive coach and a certified EQ 2.0 trainer for global technology and entertainment innovation leaders. So this is somebody who's trained as a coach, who's also a successful headhunter, who's also, and here's the kicker, certified in emotional intelligence. So she's got quite a resume, as you might imagine, but this is fascinating to me. And there's one small bone I have to pick. If your name is spelled Caroline, I think it's Caroline, but I have been sometimes corrected to Carolyn. So I'm going to ask you, Ms. Stokes, is the correct pronunciation of your name Caroline or Carolyn?
Caroline is 100% perfect. Thank you very much for asking.
Thank you for addressing that important issue of our time. Caroline, welcome. And tell us, how does this work with you having sort of 3 different ways that you're listening to almost any conversation? That of a headhunter, an emotional intelligence or EQ certified person, and a PCC coach.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's an absolute pleasure. It really is. To answer that question, just imagine how busy the brain is. We're obviously operated by our brain, and to think like a headhunter, a marketeer, a EQ coach that's obviously looking at emotional intelligence aspects, as well as obviously being a certified executive coach, there's a lot of stuff going on in the head. And I have to say that one of the great tools that I use and I'm constantly flexing on a regular basis is the emotional intelligence aspect, because every time you get an emotion, or every time you get an assumption, or every time there might be an unconscious bias that might suddenly appear, you've got to question yourself. So I think that's one of the most important things that I use daily. Not always perfectly, but we are human at the end of the day, and I'm able to use that when working with clients for headhunting assignments, and obviously for executive coaches, and executive coaching engagements, which enables me to be able to really work with both candidates, clients, and coaching clients in the moment.
I'm having trouble focusing on what you're saying because your accent is so lovely, and yet I'm further going to tease my Canadian counterpart here, because you don't sound Canadian, but I believe you are. Is that true?
I am Canadian. I've been Canadian for a whole year now. Lived here for 12 years and moved here 12 years ago, but I am British, as you identified.
I just identified you as non-Canadian. You choose to choose your own path there. All right. So thanks so much for being with us. And you are affiliated with the, I think you're actually on the board of the ICF Vancouver chapter. Is that correct? If people want to meet you in person or find you someplace?
Yes, actually, I've just recently resigned because there's just too. I know it's very hard work. The Vancouver chapter has accomplished so much. They've done extremely well. For example, one of their one of their big wins for the past year is that one of their top leaders has actually won the Prism Award, the International Prism Award, which is great, by AFCC Fuel Cell Corporation here in Vancouver. And the Vancouver chapter, along with the LA chapter, really do strive to do an awful lot. They'll have coaching cafes and so on and so forth. The people behind it are extremely passionate about what they do. I was in charge of the sponsorship, working on the sponsorship side, and because I've got two businesses to run, I said to the guys, look, I'm ever so sorry, I really don't have time for this anymore. So I bowed out very, very recently, and I regret it, but at the same time, there's only so many hours in the day.
Indeed. Let's talk about those two businesses, and then we'll go back and speak maybe about the value of the ICF and chapter participation. So you've got, as I understand it, two different businesses. Will you outline for us what those businesses are and how they're useful?
So two businesses. I'll start off with the one that I started right at the very beginning, and the company is called Forward. It's an executive headhunting and executive coaching company. And when I started that organization, it was specifically born to have a coach approach for headhunting assignments. I had worked in headhunting for a number of years, and previously I worked in marketing, and I could see that there was this big gap in that whole headhunting process, which was the focusing on the human aspect, and rather than it being transactional. So after a lot of work in that particular area, working out how to develop a coaching process within the organization for the clients that are served, as well as the candidates that are served, and even people that don't think that they need coaching or talent that need just that little bit of help just to kind of get in the right direction through a very powerful 10-minute conversation versus that, no, I can't help you here. I decided to set up a new style of headhunting company in Vancouver, and we serve companies internationally, and we find their senior heads in Montreal, in San Francisco, in LA, all over the place, and we've even done searches in Australia and in China. And the focus here is to provide a genuine partnership to the clients as well as the candidates, so everybody is informed throughout the entire process, and they feel like they have somebody that is able to think and understand about the role and the organization moving forward. So predominantly we work with innovation leaders, companies and organizations that really want to make the shift in what they need to do. A lot of the organizations, and I think this is a standard practice, especially when you hear about artificial intelligence and bots and automation and all of that technology aspect, organizations are having to transition and change rapidly for the AI age, and that means that the humans that they hire are going to be even more important, because they need human beings that are able to function in a way that is strategic, also able to focus on the product, are also very focused on commercial aspects, and really able to work through all of the different aspects of an organization and to think holistically. So that search function is very important. But also, when we place candidates, we then go through a 90-day coaching process. I would like to say that Michael Watkins backs this up, but it's a different type of program whereby, I kind of call it the quick and dirty program, where it gets to the core, a bit like a speed session in coaching. You can have a speed session in coaching. This is a speed 90 days coaching program where every single week the person is coached. They go through an emotional intelligence assessment. Actually, let me start off from the beginning. We have a kickoff meeting with the hiring manager and all of the stakeholders, as well as the candidate, and we identify what are the goals for and the objectives, and what does success look like in 90, 100 days. And then we do an EQ assessment, and every single week we have coaching with the actual individual, the candidate, the new hire, and then at the end a mini 360 specifically to help them then go on their way so they can identify how they need to move forward. And the reason for that, and I'm always getting this, and I'm always kind of stunned that this continues to happen, but it happens. I did a 360 earlier this week with a very, very senior person, and who's on the board, and he responded with, after we did the 360 and gave him the feedback, which was, I didn't know everybody was so happy with all of these different areas. And it's just like, this is the challenge with people that go into their jobs. They are heads down. They're unable to focus on anything else. There are so many assumptions. So it's a very worthwhile exercise. And one of my goals is to ensure that organizations use this process internally when they hire people, and recruiters are actually able to adapt.
I'm just going to pause you long enough to declare, I declare you a brilliant genius. Because this, when you first hear the notion executive headhunting and coaching, I'm like, I don't see how that works. But this almost guarantees success. Because you've already, not only have you found the candidate and gone through that, but with your experience and your methods, but then bringing in coaching right at the beginning, where you've A, articulated the goals, right? B, you've created a meeting so that everybody knows that they're all included on the goals, everybody's clear, and then the coaching to those goals with the 360 input. You're a brilliant genius. That's perfect. That's going to guarantee that person's success. All right.
Thank you.
And now we've got one of your businesses, right? That's the Forward, which is available at www.theforward.co. Is that correct?
That's right. Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
What's the other one?
Correct. The other one is the Emotionally Intelligent Recruiter. So that kind of extends to that whole idea about how you work with companies, how you work with clients, how you work with candidates, how you develop a coach approach. But here it's developing emotional intelligence for recruiters. Now, as we know, we all have emotional intelligence, but there are ways to adapt and transform and change so we can, again, be better at working with clients, how we can be better working with candidates, even if they're candidates that you can't help at that particular moment in time. And I've created a program specifically for organizations to bring on board a program specifically for recruiters in various forms, whether it's just a quick and dirty 1 hour session through to, which, as you know, the preparation for even a quick and dirty 1 hour session is actually very labor intensive, through to a more long form 3 to 6 month program that also incorporates emotional intelligence certification with the Emotional Intelligence Training Company, with David Corey's company. I don't know if you've come across him. And so combined, you've got the deep and meaningful, especially if recruiters and headhunters want to become that emotionally intelligent recruiter, especially if they've got an HR qualification. If they don't, I really encourage recruiters to make this as their first step. And to me, this is a mission. It's a mission, and it's also a business move, because I see in the world of AI there is this desperate need for more, as artificial intelligence and bots and automation becomes an integral part of a toolkit for recruiters, even coaches in the future. There's going to be this great opportunity for organizations to be particularly selective about what kind of recruiters that they hire. And you may know the relatively well-known fact about the US Army had decided that they were going to hire recruiters based on a certain emotional intelligence range, and when they did, they saved 3 million. I don't know how. I don't have the reports, but this is a Reuven Bar-On statistic, and I quite like that statistic. It's like, okay, I'll work with that. And with that information, you're able to think, okay, so how can organizations, if you look at it from an organizational lens, how can an organization actually enhance their community outreach, their candidate experience, their employer brand? How can they ensure that all of that it really connects with what the organization is doing? And that part of that means that you bring in, and we know this, that you need to have recruiters integrated with HR, but even making them even more integrated. So there's that communication aspect, and revealing those blind spots that we all have, even if we think we know everything. So that's kind of where that's going, and it's been a passion of mine for nearly 20 years, and it was finally launched this year. And I have a podcast called The Emotionally Intelligent Recruiter. Sorry about the plug there. And also courses and so on. I'm sorry about your cough.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just coming off of 3 days of laryngitis, which is the universe's way of saying shut up for a while. So let's point people to where they can find the podcast and more information about emotionally intelligent recruiting and being trained in such an approach, which is again, you start all your URLs with the EI Recruiter, that's RECRUITER.com, the EIRecruiter.com, and that's where you find the podcast along with wherever fine podcasts are available, right? The Emotionally Intelligent Recruiter Podcast. That's the full name. The Emotionally Intelligent Recruiter Podcast. All right. I want to go back a step, and I want to invite my other Canadian friend, Gina. You know how everybody's got to have one. Gina Ross back in here. Now, first of all, do you two know each other? Because Gina, I know you're involved with the ICF up there, but you're in the fabulous Victoria chapter as opposed to the Vancouver chapter, correct?
Yeah, the Vancouver Island chapter, yes.
Sorry.
Actually, just been nominated for another board role this year coming up for the AGM. So,
well, great. If you're interested in another board role, I know that there's one open in the Vancouver chapter. I just heard. All right, so
Caroline,
go ahead.
Sorry.
What do you have, Gina?
I was just going to say, as Caroline would agree, one role at a time is plenty.
Yes, but I'd love to invite you each to comment on your participation with your local ICF chapter. And as we are an ICF media partner, I'm sort of pro-ICF, so I'd love to hear maybe 30 seconds or a minute each on what you found at your local ICF chapter and why bother go and attend there, especially whether you're a recruiter or a successful coach.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. So it's just a really great way to move coaching forward in our community. For coaching is such an important toolkit to have, and there's so many schools out there. So it's just bringing all of us together, the diversity with us, and making sure that our community knows that we're around. And yeah, just a fantastic way to support one another.
Great. Anything to add, Caroline, or change or fix?
I'd like to add that there are lots of coaches that when they either work in an organization or if they work solo, it's very hard to find like-minded people that have that coach approach and are able to really, flick that switch on very quickly on how to communicate in a coach-like manner and are hungry to learn about new coaching practices, new coaching styles, new tools, new resources, and so on. And the International Coach Federation Vancouver chapter, and I'm pretty sure this would be the same for the Victoria chapter as well, enables the coaches, ICF coaches, and people that are going through the educational process right now to really get closer to those grassroots. I will never forget. I was in, just so you know, Gina, I studied at Royal Roads University for my executive coaching training, and I absolutely loved it. And I have to say, after the 1 week on site, when I left that, I felt like I'd left my people. I was like, we were all so aligned, and now I'm back in the big world where there's skepticism, there's cynicism, there's power struggles, and there's just something warm about going back to the people at an ICF event where everybody, and it reminds you, it kind of sparks the areas in your brain that maybe you had forgotten about.
Yeah.
Great.
I agree.
So we all agree it's a wonderful way to get connected and to become known in your field. Let's go back to, well, first of all, Gina, I've sort of been talking over you here. Is there any question that you've got for Caroline? Anything that has piqued your interest?
Yeah, I'm really curious, and I've wanted to ask, are there any, because, when I think of headhunters, I think of, these men in suits and very, mean-looking.
Apparently with deep voices, yeah.
Yes, deep voices. So I'm curious about any myths that you might be able to shatter for me, because you don't sound like a mean man in a suit.
Ah, okay. Well, that's very interesting that you have that image in your mind that headhunters stroke recruiters are... you have a very different image. I think there are lots of different types of recruiters, and I'll give you lots of different images. So recruiters or headhunters are essentially there to find the right people that can fit an organization's development. So they're in there specifically to create. Their function is to find people. It's a human to human connected experience that is necessary, but the cycle is I would say slightly damaged. Just to go slightly off topic for a second, think about a doctor, for example. Think about how a doctor or a nurse is overworked, and they are there in that environment to help people, to serve, to fix people. Same thing with recruiters or headhunters. They are there to make sure that companies have the right talent so that company is healthy. They're able to advance and to be profitable and to do whatever their big, hairy, audacious goal and mission is all about. Indeed. So those people are there. And the aspect is, and like doctors and nurses, they are stressed out beyond belief. So are recruiters. And I think the image that you have in your mind is that they're maybe a little bit brash or big or scary. It's because, number one, it sounds like they're a little bit unknown because you don't know what they do. But it really is a case of, if you were to have a conversation with a recruiter about a role that you are particularly aligned with, you're then going to have a conversation with them about it.
Caroline, I'm going to interrupt only because we've run out of time and we've got about 15 seconds. So I want to give you a chance for a quick parting thought or parting shot for our people, and I trust that we got enough of an answer for you, Gina. So what would you leave 30 or 50,000 coaches with today? Ms. Stokes?
What would I leave with 30 to 50,000? Oh, my gracious me, that is an amazing question. I'm going to try and get it in 15 seconds. Be bold, think differently, think about the future, which is going to be changing quite rapidly. You've got AI, automation, and bots, and it's going to happen a lot sooner, especially with self-aware, not software, but self-aware.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We'll be back with you next week.
Join culinary masters and legendary winemakers for one of the largest Epicurean celebrations, the 14th annual San Diego Bay Wine and Food Festival. From November 12th through the 19th, this week-long extravaganza features features celebrity and local chefs, 200 amazing wineries, 70 of San Diego's best restaurants, and it's a week of citywide events. Go to vinvillage.com to save big on select tickets. For event and hotel packages, visit SanDiegoWineClassic.com. That's SanDiegoWineClassic.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released, and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.
Cybersecurity is the fastest growing job sector. The San Diego Mayor's Cyber Cup encourages kids to consider computer security as an interesting course of study and a valuable career path. Securing Our eCity helps lead this youth competition to create interest and awareness among students and their schools. The San Diego Mayor's Cyber Cup. Learn more at securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444.
Do you love wine, but it doesn't love you back in the morning? Then it's time to try Alcotox, the ultimate hangover cure. Alcotox is a dietary supplement that reduces the harmful side effects of alcohol, and it benefits all alcohol consumers, not just those who occasionally overindulge. So now, for less than the cost of a drink, you can wake up hangover-free. To learn more, go to vinvillage.com and let Alcotox make hangovers a thing of the past.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you've helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome, neighbors, to Vecinos with your host, Maria Garcia.
Welcome to Vecinos this morning. My guest is Barbara Zaragoza, and she will be talking about her life as a writer and writing books. Barbara, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. How did you ever get started in writing? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, the books that I'm going to talk about today, my book, San Ysidro and the Tijuana River Valley, is, of course, about the border region. I'm very interested in the South Bay. And so people wonder, and I'm especially interested in the Latino or the Mexican-American history of the South Bay. And so most people assume that I am local here, and that in addition, I am Mexican-American, and I'm actually neither. I grew up in San Carlos, which is a small suburb of San Francisco, and my parents were immigrants, but they're Polish and German. And so it just so happened that as a young mother, I ended up moving down to Otay Mesa, and my children went to the San Ysidro School District. That was in 2001. And from 2001 to 2007, I lived in this San Ysidro district, looking at the border and raising 3 small children. And it was just a wonderful place to be. Our neighbors, we knew our neighbors. We had block parties. I was a volunteer mom. This community really, really nurtured me. Everybody looked out for each other, and I just loved the internationalism of it. Because after living in the Bay Area, my undergraduate, I went off to Washington, D.C., and I got my bachelor's from the American University in International Studies. And so this idea that I could see the border every day was wonderful. And then my husband was in the Navy, and we got stationed in Naples, Italy. And that was at the end of 2007. And everybody was like, oh, you're going to go to Italy. And we had these wonderful visions of what Italy was going to be like, drinking wine, eating cheese all day, being able to look at the David, all these artwork. Well, we got to Naples, Italy, to the base. And there was no trash collection for several weeks. And when you drove down the Autostrada, their freeway, there was trash 5 to 10 feet on either side of the Autostrada for miles and miles and miles. And you would drive and you would see a Fiat in front of you actually throw trash out of their window as they were driving 100 miles per hour. Naples, Italy, there were prostitutes on every corner doing a lot of business. There was guns out in the open, in spite of the fact that Italy has banned guns. There was mafia, there was crime, there was pickpockets. And they put us Navy people on a base that was over a toxic waste dump. And so in this atmosphere, it turns out that Naples was one of the most dangerous cities in all of the Western world. And people were getting depressed. The service members were depressed. They weren't going anywhere. They were sitting in their homes. How can we be here? This is not the Italian experience. Well, to boot, when I would meet the Italians, the Neapolitans, they'd say, oh, where are you from? I'd say San Diego. And they would say, what are you doing here? They had no pride in where they were. And so I said, how can I use my talents, my gifts, my interests to help the situation in a small way, to be a contribution? And I said, I know a travel guide. I'm going to write a travel guide. And this was during the time that social media was just starting. Facebook had just started up and blogs had just started up. So I started a blog. Plus, they had a community newspaper on base called The Panorama, and they had a larger newspaper called The Stars and Stripes. So I'd take the kids in the car on the weekends with my little Prius, and I would drive around Naples looking for places amidst the trash, and found that Naples is also the oldest city in the Western world. And they have some of the most amazing archaeological sites. I would take my kids to the oldest ancient Greek ruins called Kuma, and they would be able to go and run around the Sibyl's cave where she used to utter her oracles. And I was able to go to the Phlegrean fields and find these almost abandoned archaeological ruins that are falling apart because they don't have the money to take care of it, that were the ancient Roman baths. And I called Carlos Santillo and I showed my children the opening of Hades. Carlos insists that you can go there. And all of a sudden, I was blogging and writing about the sights of Naples. And people in this small community on the Navy base were saying, thank you so much. I'm so glad to see this. I'm so much happier because I know where to go. I don't have to just stay home. And the Italians on base started telling their friends, look at what this woman is doing in English. Look at how she's writing about our environment. And what I noticed is, as they started to gain pride in their history, because travel is really writing about history, they wanted to take care of their environment a lot more. We wanted to take care of our environment a lot more. We wanted to pick up the trash, literally, but also figuratively. So after those 3 years were up, we came back and we moved to Chula Vista. My husband got out of the Navy. It was beginning 2011. It was December 2010. And we still lived by the border, but now Chula Vista, which is one of the safest cities in all of the nation. And things got really quiet, and I got depressed because I had lost my purpose. For 3 years, I'd struggled. We need more pride. We need to take care of these ruins. We need to clean up this city. I was reading the Italian papers by then, I was very involved, and I'd really lost my purpose. What am I going to do now? What can I do here? And I started to go back to San Ysidro because I missed it, and also because Italian and Spanish are so similar, and I'd learned Spanish as a high schooler. And so I would go back to San Ysidro and see the border and go down to Mexico because that was the lifestyle that harkened back to Italy. And that's when I realized, boy, there are a lot of stereotypes about the South Bay. There's a lot of stereotypes about National City and Chula Vista and Imperial Beach and in San Ysidro. And it's considered an underserved community. So why don't I write about San Ysidro? And so I ended up contracting with Arcadia Publishing, and I ended up saying, I'd like to write about San Ysidro. And they said, go for it. You need 200 pictures, you have the captions, write the history, you have 9 months to do it. And so what's fascinating is that San Ysidro had not one book about it. The South Bay had not one book. The Tijuana River Valley had not one book about it. So I had to start from scratch. If you think about it, think about Civil War. I mean, you have just hundreds and hundreds of books, tons of primary sources. But I really had nothing. So I had to go to the San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce. And they said, well, go find this person and go find this person. Then I went to Casa Familiar. Oh, well, go find this person and go find this person. Then I went to Los Amigos. And I met some of the most dynamic people who were giving me their photographs. And I also met a wonderful librarian called Adolfo Campo, who's at the San Ysidro Public Library. And it turns out he and these wonderful librarians in San Ysidro have kept as much of the San Ysidro history as they could find in these binders that are underneath the counter of the library. And some of the things in there, I mean, it's kind of scattered. They have a Bay Cities Press like a little Xerox copy, but Bay Cities Press doesn't exist. It's lost to time. You can't find it anywhere. You go to newspapers.com, you can't find it anywhere. So I was really starting from the bottom and had to reconstruct this history. And that was a difficult thing to do. And I started, put a pin in this, with William Smythe. And San Ysidro had a very, very dynamic, exciting history. But what I ended up telling in this very first book was a very white history, because that was what was available. And of course, I love the book for the things like the fact that Rita Hayworth lived in Chula Vista. You can still see the casita, and then made it big in Tijuana. Seabiscuit was boarded in the Tijuana River Valley for a time so that he could compete in Agua Caliente. Cesar Chavez came to the Civic Center, to San Ysidro, and to National City. Bobby Kennedy, 2 days before his assassination, came to San Ysidro and to National City because those areas were considered an important voting bloc. So all this famous history. Well, my other part was this amazing little history that starts with basically William Smythe. In 1909, he's a Northeasterner who wanted to create a utopian agricultural community. And this utopian agricultural community he felt was very important because it was during the time of industrialization. And he wanted to make sure that every man could live off of 1 acre of land and do well for themselves. And so he came to San Diego, and he was actually going to create a chain of little landers. And so he went to try to buy property downtown San Diego, but it was too expensive. So it was cheaper at the border.
We're going to let you talk more about this as soon as our commercial is over. Thank you for sharing this much with us. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Great.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO.
The richness of your life is reflected in the shimmering elegance found at Diolune Design. One-of-a-kind jewelry and pieces from Cynthia Dillon in silver and gold help to express your unique personality. The flowing designs of her creations will empower the way you move throughout your day. Join us online at DIOLUNdesigns.com.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What?, Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome, neighbors, to Vecinos with your host, Maria Garcia.
When we went to commercial, we were talking to Barbara Zaragoza about working in San Isidro, or what she has found in San Isidro, and about a family called Smythe. Many people that are not familiar with San Isidro did not understand the uniqueness of that community. So I'm hoping Barbara will lead us down the road through this community.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. Thank you for having me. I can't stop talking about South Bay history. As you know, I think it's the most dynamic community in the nation, and I'm wondering why more people aren't studying it and talking about it. But anyway, so I was going to talk about my book, San Isidro in the Tijuana River Valley, and where I started with William Smythe, who was a writer, a journalist from the Northeast, who came to San Diego and set up a utopian agricultural community. And he felt that every man could live off of 1 acre of land, and he put into the city assessor's office a town called San Isidro, which is named after the patron saint of farmers. And then he started to sell off his lots of land to people. And in actual fact, it was a disaster. And the historians didn't want to admit it. But the agricultural utopian community was a disaster. First of all, the people that moved in were educators, they were writers, they were not farmers. And there was no irrigation. And what is interesting that we find also that wasn't necessarily talked about is that in their bylaws, they put that they would have no Asians, African Americans, or Mexican Americans who are allowed to live in that community. So that was the beginning of the racial restrictive covenants, and I actually have a scan of the deed that was created during that time. And so in 1916, you had the San Diego Great Flood, and it washed Little Landers out, and everybody basically left. And that began the era in San Isidro of the border barons, because who came in during that time was these border barons who had owned saloons and opium dens and brothels in Bakersfield and Mexicali. And because of the U.S. prohibition that started then in the 1920s, they realized that they could build these great big resorts in Vice City or Tijuana, and they could live in San Isidro and wash their money, launder their money in San Isidro. And the big guy that I write about in this book is Frank Bayer, who was purportedly known to drink a bottle of whiskey a day. And he gave the money for the San Isidro Public Library, but there had to be a men's smoking room with racy magazines, or today's kind of penthouse. And then, ironically, he also gave money for 2 churches, a Congregational church in Mount Carmelo, which still exists there. And he was a colorful character. But what he and many others did was go down to Tijuana, create racetracks, saloons, opium dens, and he ended up hiring in upper management all of these white people. And it was reported that shacks were all around for the Mexican people who came to work in these low-income jobs. And that's actually when the sewer issue began, because Tijuana sits 300 feet above sea level, and the border barons were creating these brothels and saloons and racetracks and this beautiful Agua Caliente where all of these great celebrities were coming, and they weren't creating the infrastructure along with it. And so what you had was a whole bunch of sewage coming down into the Tijuana River Valley, and all of the people who were boarding Seabiscuit and all of the farmers complaining that there was no sewage. And so anyway, I wrote this book and published the book and kind of waited now. Like, how's it going to be received? Because a real historian wants critique and criticism. You know, this was kind of, history is kind of like layering the cake. This is the first book. What am I going to do next? And I got on Amazon.com a critique. She gave me a 4-star, but she said, this book is very interesting, but so lacking in Latino history. And because of social media and the accessibility, she'd put her name on, and I searched her on Facebook and then sent her a message saying, "Hi, I'm the author. Thank you so much for your message, for your honesty, for your authenticity. How do I get a hold of more Latinos? How do I find them?" Because the fact is that in these underserved communities like San Ysidro, everybody knows everyone, and they also distrust people coming into the community for good reason. And so here comes this middle-aged white woman who's not part of the community, and I had to spend a lot of time gaining trust. People had to trust. And when you talk about your family history, you know, that's a precious thing. You're putting that into somebody's care, which is very important. And so she was very, very exuberant and said, "Well, come meet my family. You know, come. I'm actually in Florida, but I have this big family and I have a very big history in San Ysidro." And she introduced me to her sisters and to her cousins, and we're friends now. And she's just wonderful. And one thing led to another, and I said, I need to write a book. I need to do a project about the Latinos in the South Bay because that history has not been written. And I'm not quite sure why, because the South Bay has 450,000 people population, and at least in the 2010 census, at least 51% of people who check the box Hispanic. And it's probably a lot more by now. And why that history hasn't been told is strange. And so I embarked upon what will now be a museum exhibit at the Chula Vista Public Library that opens on Saturday, January 27th at 2 p.m. It's going to be 100 photos that's free and open to the public for anyone to see. There is then an iPad with interviews and a website, the Chula Vista Heritage Museum. And I ended up interviewing about 70 people. I transcribed about 50. I asked for archival photographs, and I collected over 2,000 archival photographs, and then said, well, I need an accompanying history book that talks about the context of all of this, not just a local history of this is just the South Bay and this is what this person did, this person. But when you have someone who, for example, fought in the Mexican Revolution, I have to explain who Pancho Villa is, who the Mexican Revolution is, and when they came over to San Ysidro, why that was such an important part of their history. And so that's coming out, but what I found was that one person led to another person, led to another person, and everybody had friends who wanted to talk about their history, who wanted to donate their time, tell me about their family. And what I found was something, Maria, extraordinary, extraordinary. I love this region even more. Particularly in Chula Vista and San Ysidro, what we have today are residents whose ancestors go back 8 generations to the Portola expeditions in 1769.
That's amazing. Talk a little bit about that era, just a little bit.
Yes. The era is interesting because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that Portola came to Baja California specifically to kick out the Jesuits who had created missions in all up and down Baja. Well, the missionaries also had soldados de cuera, the leather jackets. They had a lot of soldiers who were frontiersmen who had been there 2 or 3 generations. And as I write in the book, what we do talk about is that these Jesuits came to Baja, that Father Serra came to Alta California, and of course they enslaved the Native Americans. They had bad relations with the Native Americans. Disease killed a large number of Native Americans. For people in the South Bay, though, what's important is the Native Americans who survived and intermarried with those pioneers. And so what you had in Baja California is as they started to come up to Alta California and the expedition in 1769, they were all of very mixed identities. They were mestizo. There was Africans who came during the slave trade and to Mexico, and then African Spaniards came to Baja California hoping to have more freedom. A lot of these residents in the South Bay of Spanish-speaking descent are taking their DNA and finding that they have Jewish heritage, that they're Sephardic and Ashkenazi as well. So they come into Alta California in the 1700s under the Spanish crown,